At the age of 34, I have what most people would consider a prosperous life. My name is Emma. At Westbrook Industries, where I work as the finance director, I make enough money that I haven't had to check my bank account before making a purchase in years. I own 2 apartments, my first suburban home, which I purchased when I began earning a fair living, and a lovely apartment in the city center, where I presently reside. If someone who knows me were asked to sum up my life in one word, they would most likely reply stable. They would be correct, with the exception of one constant cyclone in my otherwise serene life. Lily, my younger sister. Lily has always been the family's wild kid. She was discovered sneaking out to parties when I was studying finance and doing unpaid internships. She contacted me from the police station when I received my first promotion, having received a citation for skinny dipping at the beach with her pals. Lily decided to try her hand at being an influencer after I completed a big deal at work last year. She spent all of our parents' credit card money on camera gear that now sits in their garage collecting dust. Since discovering my ex-boyfriend having an affair with his coworker, I haven't been in a committed relationship for 3 years. I've been concentrating on my job ever since that betrayal left its impact. In contrast, Lily has spent years with Jake, her college love. In 2 weeks, they will finally tie the knot, and the wedding planning has taken up all of their time. Except for times when she needs money for absurd things, I haven't seen her very much lately. Lily texted me while I was at work going over the quarterly reports. We're having family dinner at Mom and Dad's tonight. Arrive by 7 o'clock. Important topics to talk about at the wedding. Knowing precisely what important wedding stuff entailed, I let out a groan. It was code for Emma having to pay for a costly item. For the wedding, I had already handed her $25,000, which was meant to pay everything. There was always something else, though. The vehicle used to leave the event last month was a vintage vehicle. A champagne fountain that needed specific insurance was there before that. I responded back, I'll be there, having already prepared my speech of refuse. 2 weeks remained till the wedding. What more could they require? I knew something was wrong the moment I walked into my parents' colonial-style house that night. Lily, Jake, Mom, and Dad were all clustered in the living room, whispering to each other. As soon as I entered, they became silent. Hey, everyone, I greeted as I hung my coat in the closet in the corridor. While Lily and Jake exchanged a look that made my stomach knot, Dad gestured towards me. That look signaled danger, and I knew my sister better than anyone. So, what's this important wedding stuff? I sat down opposite them and inquired. Mom ushered everyone into the dining room and said, let's talk about it over dinner. Dinner was strangely tense. Dad talked about his golf game while Mom kept refilling wine glasses. Lily and Jake barely touched their food, still giving each other those knowing looks. Finally, as Mom brought out dessert, Lily cleared her throat. Emma, we need to have a serious conversation. I braced myself. Let me guess, you want to release doves at the ceremony? Or maybe hire a skywriter? No, nothing like that, Lily said, looking uncharacteristically serious. This is about your wedding gift to us. I raised an eyebrow. My wedding gift? I thought the $25,000 I already gave you was my gift. Well, Lily said, looking at Jake, then our parents, before turning back to me. We've all been talking, and we think there's something specific you should give us. I waited, fork suspended midair. Your apartment, she said finally. The one in the suburbs, where Jake and I have been living. I nearly choked on my wine. Excuse me? We love that place, Jake chimed in, as if that explained everything. We've been living there for 3 years now, and it feels like home. It's the perfect wedding gift, Lily added. We've already planned the renovations and picked out new furniture. For a moment, I thought they were joking. But the serious expressions on their faces told me otherwise. They actually expected me to give them my apartment, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, as a wedding present. You can't be serious, I said, putting my glass down. I already gave you $25,000 for this wedding. Not to mention, you've been living in my apartment rent-free for 3 years. I don't even make you pay utilities. Lily's face flushed with anger. We thought you'd be happy to help us start our married life. By giving away my property? Property that I worked incredibly hard for. I could feel my blood pressure rising. Do you have any idea how many hours I put in to afford those apartments? How many years I spent paying off those mortgages? Emma, Mom cut in, her voice sharp. Don't be so greedy. You're successful. You have another apartment. Your sister is getting married. This would be a wonderful gesture. I looked at her in disbelief. Greedy? I've been supporting Lily for years. I paid for her car repairs, her last vacation, and now a lavish wedding. How am I the greedy one here? How dare you? Lily shouted, jumping to her feet. Her face was red with anger. You think you're so perfect with your fancy job and your 2 apartments. I stared at her, stunned by this sudden outburst. You're selfish, Emma. All you think about is yourself, she continued, practically spitting the words. Look at you, 34, almost 35, alone and getting older by the minute. No husband. No kids. Nothing. In a few years, no one will even look at you as a woman anymore. Her words hit me like a physical blow. I glanced at my parents, expecting them to intervene, to tell Lily she'd gone too far. Instead, they sat there nodding. Your sister has a point, Emma, Mom said softly. Lily has found love. She's building a life with Jake. You should help her. After all, it's not like you have a personal life to invest in. The room started spinning. My own family, people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, were attacking me for not giving away my property. Worse, they were using my single status as a weapon against me. I can't believe what I'm hearing, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I've worked my ass off for everything I have. Lily has been living in my apartment for free for 3 years, and I've given her $25,000 for this wedding. And this is how you thank me? By demanding more and insulting me? I grabbed my purse and stood up. I'm not giving you my apartment. Not now. Not ever. Emma, sit down, Dad ordered, but I was already heading for the door. You'll regret this. Lily called after me. You're going to end up alone with nothing but your money and your precious apartments. I slammed the door behind me and practically ran to my car. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. Once inside, I let out a sob I'd been holding back. How could they do this to me? How could they treat me like I was nothing more than an ATM with an apartment to hand over? I drove aimlessly for a while, too upset to go straight home. Finally, I pulled into a coffee shop parking lot and went inside. I needed to calm down before I could face the drive home. 1 large black coffee, please, I told the barista, my voice still unsteady. As I sat in a corner booth, my phone began buzzing incessantly, calls from Mom, Dad, and Lily. I silenced it and put it face down on the table. The messages started coming in immediately after. Mom, Emma, please come back and discuss this rationally. Dad, your behavior was unacceptable. Call us immediately. Then Lily's messages, each worse than the last. You've always been jealous of me. Your biological clock is ticking. Tick-tock. No wonder you're still single. Who'd want to be with someone so cold and selfish? You look older than 34. Those wrinkles aren't going away. I turned off my phone completely. The cruelty of it all was overwhelming. These were people who were supposed to love me, support me. Instead, they were treating me like an obstacle to their plans. Plans that involved taking what was mine. As I sipped my coffee, I made a decision. Tomorrow after work, I would go to my suburban apartment and tell Lily and Jake they needed to move out. I'd been more than generous letting them live there rent-free, and this was how they repaid me? No more. They had 2 weeks until their wedding, plenty of time to find a new place. The next day at work, I could hardly focus. I kept replaying the dinner conversation in my head, each time feeling a fresh wave of anger and hurt. By the time 5 p.m. rolled around, I was ready to confront my sister. I drove to the suburban apartment, rehearsing what I would say. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't cry. I would simply inform them that they had 30 days to vacate the premises, a generosity, considering I could legally give them less time. When I arrived, I noticed Jake's car wasn't in the parking lot. Good. It would be easier to talk to Lily alone. I walked up to the door and knocked firmly. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. I could hear movement inside. Someone was definitely home. "Lily, open up." "I know you're in there," I called, ringing the doorbell repeatedly. After several minutes of this, I tried my key. It didn't work. Confused, I tried again, jiggling it in the lock. That's when it hit me. They'd changed the locks on my apartment. The audacity was breathtaking. I pulled out my phone and called Lily, my hands shaking with rage. "What do you want?" she answered, her voice cold. "Why the hell are the locks changed on my apartment?" I demanded. There was a pause. Then Lily laughed. Actually laughed. "It's not your apartment anymore, Emma. It's ours now." "Have you lost your mind? That apartment is in my name. I paid for it. I own it." "Not for long," she said smugly. "And don't bother threatening to call the police or sue me. We both know you'd never take your own sister to court. Lily, goodbye." The line went dead. I stood there, staring at my phone in disbelief. My first instinct was to call my parents. Surely they would talk some sense into Lily, but then I remembered their faces last night, nodding along as Lily insulted me. They wouldn't help. They'd never taken my side over Lily's, and they weren't about to start now. Back at my apartment, I poured myself a large glass of wine and sank onto my couch. My mind raced with possible solutions. I could call a lawyer. I could call the police. But would I really want to see my sister arrested? Despite everything, the thought made me uncomfortable. As I contemplated my options, my phone dinged with a notification. Lily had posted something new on social media. Against my better judgment, I opened the app to see what she'd shared. My stomach dropped as I read her post. With heavy hearts, Jake and I, along with my parents, have decided not to invite my sister Emma to our wedding in 2 weeks. Someone who doesn't behave like family doesn't deserve to be present on our special day. We look forward to celebrating with all our other loved ones. The post already had dozens of comments from relatives and family friends, most expressing confusion or asking what happened. Lily wasn't responding to any of them, leaving everyone to speculate. Almost immediately, my phone started ringing with calls from aunts, uncles, and cousins, all wanting to know what was going on. I ignored them all. What could I possibly say? That my sister demanded I give her my apartment as a wedding gift, and when I refused, my entire family turned against me? I turned off my phone and finished my wine. Then I poured another glass. The situation seemed surreal. How had things escalated so quickly? 24 hours ago, I was just a woman going to a family dinner. Now, I was being publicly downed by my sister 2 weeks before her wedding. As the initial shock wore off, a plan started forming in my mind. Lily and my parents thought they had the upper hand, that they could bully and manipulate me into giving up my property. They were wrong. If they wanted to play hardball, I could play too. But I needed to wait for the right moment. The wedding was in 2 weeks. That would be my opportunity. Those 2 weeks dragged on interminably. At work, I threw myself into projects to stay distracted. At home, I avoided social media and kept my phone on silent. Occasionally, I'd check for messages from my parents or Lily, only to find more guilt trips and insults. None of them showed any remorse or understanding of how inappropriately they'd behaved. I contacted a locksmith I knew from when I'd locked myself out of my city apartment last year. "Jim, I need a special favor," I told him over the phone. "I need you to meet me at my other property on the 14th. The current occupants changed the locks without my permission." "No problem, Emma," he replied. "I can handle that for you." Next, I reserved a storage unit not far from the suburban apartment and paid for 3 months in advance. I also hired movers for the wedding day, giving them specific instructions on what to do. Finally, the wedding day arrived. I knew Lily, Jake, my parents, and most of our extended family would be at the ceremony and reception all day. The timing was perfect. I met Jim, the locksmith, at my apartment at 9 a.m., just as the wedding preparations would be underway across town. Within minutes, he had the door open, installed a new lock, and handed me the keys. All set. They won't be getting back in without these. I thanked him and paid him generously, then stepped inside my apartment. I was shocked by what I saw. Lily and Jake had redecorated without my knowledge or permission. New curtains hung in the living room, and walls that had been beige were now painted a bold blue. They'd even removed some of my furniture and replaced it with pieces I didn't recognize. The audacity struck me. They truly believed this place was already theirs. Taking a deep breath, I got to work. I found some large boxes in the storage closet and began packing up Lily and Jake's personal belongings, clothes, toiletries, books, electronics, anything that clearly belonged to them went into the boxes. It took hours. By mid-afternoon, I'd filled over 20 boxes with their possessions. The movers arrived at 3 p.m. as scheduled. Take all these boxes too. This storage unit, I instructed, handing them the address and access code. Stack them neatly so they're accessible. As the movers worked, I sat at the kitchen table and composed a text message to Lily. Congratulations on your wedding day. I hope it's everything you dreamed it would be. Your wedding gift for me is in storage unit 247 at Westside Storage. The access code is 5529. All of your and Jake's belongings are there, packed safely. As for the apartment, I've changed the locks back. Since you're now married, I'm sure you understand it's time for you to find your own place to live. This is the only wedding gift you deserve from me. I didn't send the message yet. I would wait until the movers were done and I was back home. By 6 p.m., the apartment was empty of their belongings. I looked around at the changes they'd made, the painted walls, the new curtains, the rearranged furniture. It would take work to restore it to its original condition, but that was a problem for another day. I locked up with my new keys and drove home. Once there, I poured myself a glass of champagne, a small celebration of taking back control of my property and my life. At 8 p.m., when I knew the reception would be in full swing, I sent the text message to Lily. The response was almost immediate. My phone exploded with calls and texts from Lily, from Jake, from my parents, even from some relatives at the wedding. I didn't answer any of them. Lily, you ruined my wedding day. How could you do this? Mom, Emma, your sister is in tears. What have you done? Dad, this is unacceptable behavior. Call us immediately. Jake, you had no right to touch our things. The messages kept coming, growing increasingly desperate and angry. My parents threatened that they'd tell the entire family what a terrible person I was. Lily swore I'd regret this for the rest of my life. I turned off my phone, took my champagne to the bathtub, and enjoyed a long, peaceful soak. For the first time in weeks, I felt completely at peace with my decisions. The next day, I slept in late. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were dozens more messages, but I deleted them all without reading them. Instead, I opened my laptop and began composing a social media post of my own. I've been quiet about recent family events, but I feel it's time to share my side. 3 years ago, I allowed my sister and her fiancé to live rent-free in an apartment I own. Recently, they demanded I give them this apartment, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, as a wedding gift. When I refused, they changed the locks, claimed the property as their own, and uninvited me from their wedding. Yesterday, I reclaimed my property and moved their belongings to a storage unit. I'm deeply saddened that my generosity was met with such entitlement and that my parents supported this behavior. I wish them all well, but I decided to step back from these relationships for my own well-being. I hesitated before hitting post, wondering if I was being too harsh or airing too much dirty laundry. But then I remembered Lily's public uninviting of me from her wedding and the cruel messages about my appearance and single status. I deserved to tell my side of the story. I hit post and closed my laptop. Within hours, my post had hundreds of comments. To my surprise, most were supportive. Your sister is delusional. Who demands an apartment as a gift? You let them live there rent-free for 3 years, and they wanted more. My cousin Rachel commented, "Now I understand why you weren't at the wedding." For what it's worth, Lily was asking everyone for expensive gifts. She literally told me my planned gift wasn't good enough. I hadn't expected this outpouring of support. I'd been prepared for everyone to side with Lily, as they usually did. Instead, people were reaching out to tell me they understood my position and thought my sister was being unreasonable. Meanwhile, my parents and Lily continued their barrage of messages. The tone gradually shifted from angry to pleading. "Mom, Emma, please call us. We need to talk about this as a family. Dad, Your mother is very upset. This isn't good for her blood pressure. Lily, you've made your point. Can we talk now? I didn't respond to any of them. After years of being taken for granted, of having my generosity exploited, I needed time and space to process everything. A week after the wedding, I asked the building concierge to restrict access to my apartment. My family members were not to be allowed up under any circumstances. 2 weeks after the wedding, I heard from my friend Tasha that Lily and Jake had canceled their honeymoon trip to Bali. They're saying they need the money for rent now, Tasha explained over lunch. Lily's complaining to everyone who will listen about how you kicked them out and they had to find a place on short notice. I speared a piece of lettuce with my fork. They had 3 years to save for their own place. Instead, they repainted my apartment without permission and tried to steal it. A month passed, then another. The calls and texts became less frequent. Occasionally, my mother would send a message asking how I was doing or suggesting we meet for coffee. My father sent a formal-sounding email about resolving family differences. Lily's messages oscillated between angry accusations and desperate pleas to let them move back into their home. I maintained my silence. The wound was still too fresh, the betrayal too deep. In September, 3 months after the wedding, I hired painters to restore my suburban apartment to its original colors. I replaced the curtains Lily had hung and brought back the furniture she'd removed. Once it was back to its original state, I listed it for rent at market rate. Meanwhile, I was making other changes in my life. The whole ordeal had been a wake-up call. I'd spent years prioritizing work and family obligations over my own happiness. Now, I was determined to find better balance. I joined a hiking club that met on weekends. On one of these hikes, I met Daniel, an environmental engineer with a quick smile and a thoughtful manner. We struck up a conversation about local wildlife, and by the end of the hike, he'd asked for my number. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant downtown. Unlike my previous relationships, there was no game playing, no hidden agendas, just 2 adults enjoying each other's company. My parents sent me an official letter 4 months after the wedding event. An invitation to Thanksgiving dinner was enclosed. My mother had written, "We miss you," at the bottom. Please think about attending. Jake and Lily won't be present. Days passed as I considered the invitation. There was a part of me that wanted to keep the line I had drawn. I also missed the family I had before entitlement and selfishness ruined everything. Ultimately, I chose to say no. I replied, "Thank you for the invitation," in writing. "I'm still not prepared for a family get-together. I hope you get it." They didn't reply, but the next week my mother sent a tiny parcel to my flat. A childhood photo album and the following message were found inside. "I've been thinking back on where things went wrong. I apologize for causing you pain." It was something, but it wasn't a complete admission of their wrongdoing. I placed the record on my bookshelf since I wasn't ready to listen to it yet, but also didn't want to throw it away. Daniel encouraged me to celebrate with his family as Christmas drew near. He told me, "They'd love to meet you, but there's no pressure." I agreed. There were none of the undertones of rivalry and comparison that I had grown up with in his family. Instead, they were kind and accepting. His father replenished my wine glass all evening, and his mother gave me a hug as if she had known me for years. By the end of the evening, I felt more comfortable among these strangers than I had in previous years with my own family. I told Daniel, "Your family is wonderful," as we made our way back to my house. He said, "They really liked you," and tried to grasp my hand. Fair warning, my mom's already planning our wedding. Although we both chuckled, I wasn't as concerned by the remark as I may have been months before. Rather, I experienced a soft warmth at the prospect of a future with this stable, compassionate guy. 7 months after the disastrous wedding, Lily texted me in January to say, "I'm pregnant, due in August. I felt I should let you know that things are not well between us. You will become an aunt." I didn't answer right away. Joy at the prospect of having a niece or nephew, grief at the family divide that meant I could never meet this kid, and rage that Lily might be using this information to pressure me into making amends were all mixed emotions evoked by the news. After giving it some thought, I replied simply, "Congratulations to you both." Life went on. My bond with Daniel grew stronger. A young professional couple moved into my suburban flat, They paid their rent on time and didn't insist that I give them the place as a present. I became one of the youngest executives in the history of the firm after receiving another promotion at work. I still occasionally reflected about my family and the strange direction our relationships had taken. After such a severe betrayal of trust, I questioned whether we would ever be able to get back together. But for the time being, I was concentrating on creating my own life, one that was founded on respect for one another and sincere concern rather than duty and exploitation. And I was genuinely pleased for the first time in years.